Somebody at Pixar deserves a check for this. That's all I'm saying. That is what they all say. Why is Toy Chica like that? Who cares? It's a free country. Think I understand what's happening here? No, this is still confusing to me. This is not worth my energy. Hi, I'm Nervous, and today we are reacting to the second half of Dual Process Theories, We've Solved FNAF, and We're Not Kidding. If you missed part 1, I would highly recommend going and watching that before watching this video. Very, very briefly, they go over who they think inhabits Golden Freddy, who they think Cassidy is, and they explore a lot of the early parts of the lore. We are now starting to seemingly talk more about Michael and the nightmare gas. Last video, I made a prediction and I was 100% spot on. A lot of people were very impressed with me, and I just have to say it's something that I've thought for a long time. It's not like I just picked up on some kind of context clues. They just had the same idea that I did about what they are talking about. This week, I think I had the reveal spoiled for me in the comments of last video. There was no way for me to know that I was reading a spoiler comment until after I'd already read it. And I was like, oop, that's probably a spoiler. But if I have any predictions unrelated to what I specifically read about, I will go ahead and make them just because I think it's fun. If you are a returning viewer, hello and welcome back. And if this is your first one, I don't recognize you. You're new. So go ahead and hit that subscribe button to become a part of the Nervous system. And regardless of whether you're new or old, go ahead, like the video, and leave a comment below with your thoughts as we go through. Leave multiple comments, who cares? It's a free country. And by country, I mean platform on YouTube. And they don't limit how many times you can comment on my video. Also, if you notice something different this week, obviously I'm in a different place, but those who know what I've changed for the better, and you're welcome. And without further ado, let's get reacting. And if you'll notice, when I search dual process theory, I get recommended my own video from the last time. Despite uploading every week, I've never been recommended one of my own videos before, so this is pretty incredible. I am so grateful for Dual Process Theory for sending some of their viewers my way, just by proxy of being incredibly popular in the algorithm right now, so thank you for that. I like how me reacting to one half of their video is about the halfway mark for them, and I think that's just a testament to how much I cut out of my video to try to make sure that you still have to watch their video to get the full thing. I only kept in what I felt was relevant to my discussion, trying not to take out anything that I thought would completely destroy any semblance of like a story structure on their part.
Let's talk about the nightmare gas!
Let's go.
In Tales from
Okay,
the Pizzaplex's
we're vibing.
Didophobia,
All right.
we see a young boy trapped in a makeshift house, made to appear realistic via hallucinogenic gas being pumped into the room day in and day out.
Yes.
He believes himself to be reliving the same day over and over, not processing the repetition. At night, he has horrifying encounters with the nightmare animatronics, but upon the gas being diluted, he realizes the house is bare bones.
I'm sorry, this funky music is making it absolutely impossible to concentrate on what they're saying. Oh my goodness, I'm so feeling it. I'm feeling it a bit too hard. I'm gonna try really hard to ignore it, sorry.
Animatronics are just puppets, and he's been here for far longer than he knew. He was kidnapped and put into an experiment on fear, which automated itself after being abandoned. He realizes that he is in a hidden area of the sister location bunker, and after trying to call for help, hears a tape of likely Afton convincing him to turn the gas back on and go back to his delusion. Is this true to the games? Possibly. If you look in sister location, there's tanks of unlabeled gas literally everywhere. There's at least 3 in every room.
And it's like, you're not making that many balloons.
Quite a few
you know what I
things
mean?
about
You're
it.
just not making
and
that many balloons.
And the nightmare gas experiments explain the connection between the FNAF 4 house and sister location, as seen in the latter game's custom night, as well as the fact the FNAF 4 house does not match up with the crying.
I would also say that this is a really great pivot from Dream Theory for Scott. I think that pivoting from true nightmare, just literal interpretation, to this sort of induced nightmare is a really great pivot for him to keep his creative integrity intact. Like, I did want this. So if Scott Cawthon did not want to abandon dream theory and completely retcon it, but instead manipulate it to fit into a narrative that perhaps would be more satisfying to viewers and players, I think this is a really smart way to do it. To create a science fiction explanation for somebody having these incredibly realistic nightmares. I enjoy that as a concept, I will just say.
Child's house as seen in the cutscenes.
When looking at the contents of the scooping room in Ruin, which may or may not be the same room, you can find several cans of nitrous oxide, which is being actively pumped into the room. Nitrous oxide is indeed a hallucinogen, which can make you disassociate and, in rare cases, cause out-of-body experiences and delusions. So the nightmare gas could just be nitrogen, but there is one caveat that it works mainly as a sedative and
Corey's
laughing
cat was playing with the mic during this session. Okay. What is the correlation between FNAF tubers and cats? It's not a Venn diagram, it's a circle, you know? Not literally. I don't know everybody's lore, if you will, but so many FNAF tubers have cats.
Which would make someone calmer and less prone to nightmares. It's literally used to induce euphoria, which is the opposite purpose of the nightmare gas.
Okay, fair enough.
Which makes it highly unlikely that it alone is our gas. It could be used in the nightmare gas formula or machinery, but it's definitely not the whole
thing. Yeah,
there are many other uses, though, which will actually be discussed later.
That being said, a certain amount of these stories could be seen as equivalencies more than fact. Things are ever so slightly off to show that this isn't the same one as the games or the novels. It very well could be the nightmare gas was this kind of swap, while our nightmare animatronics are the ones with the novels' series illusion discs that people have claimed to see on their endoskeletons.
That's valid.
Whatever
I think that's fair.
They're not the crying child's dreams. They're experiments. Experiments now on Michael. William was experimenting on a lot of things and trying to find immortality or bring his dead son back or whatever. Why he was experimenting with child fear seems weird to me, but if I'm right and he was trying to produce Remnant, that could be the cause. Or, more likely, he was getting agony.
Agony.
Does anybody else get Monsters, Inc. vibes from that part of this series? Scott Cawthon was watching Pixar's Monsters, Inc. with his kids and was like, that's it. That's what we're doing. We're going full throttle. That's within those tanks. It's just agony. It's just monsters sent through a child's door going into their room to scare them to collect a substance that they can use to power things. Somebody at Pixar deserves a check for this. That's all I'm saying.
Agony in the books is a powerful source.
I hear it. I hear what you've got going on in the background there. Okay? That's enough.
Eleanor is a living being made solely of agony. And in case you don't know the Fazbear Frights lore, when the soul dies in a close enough proximity to something metal, Remnant is the good memories, agony is the bad, and that's what causes objects to go haunted.
Right.
Anyway, Taggart was doing experiments on making a living thing just out of agony parts.
That's exactly what he
Remnant,
looks like.
He probably discovered agony too, and decided the nightmare gas was a great way to test this shit out. And, well, might as well test that gas on the kid who's digging a bit too far, both literally and metaphorically. Also,
a great guinea
Afton
pig
was freaking crazy even before Cassidy died, could explain what the sister location bunker was doing active in 1983 with a Fredbear plushie.
I would agree.
They might already have kids down there. When Michael gets home...
I would agree. I don't know if I would agree with that he had kids down there, but I have always more appreciated the idea that William Afton was just always a bit squirrely. He just always had a bit of a screw loose. Is my hair in my choker? That's gorgeous. Icon, honey. Icon. You just put your hair inside your necklace. It's on purpose. It's called fashion, sweaty. Anyway, I've always kind of liked the idea that William Afton is just jealous of what Henry is able to create and is always looking for some way to one-up that, to do better. That's my 2 cents on the subject, which is what you're here for, so you're welcome.
Still unable to find his brother's body, William takes him on a father-son trip to his little secret bunker. How do we know Michael got nightmare gassed? Once again, we look to the security logbook. On one page, faded text asks, "Do you have dreams?" On the same page, Michael sketches Nightmare Fredbear. Only someone who'd been through FNAF 4 gameplay would know what Nightmare Fredbear looked like, because he went through these experiments.
Or he
and
played the
nightmares
games, you know?
persisted well into his adult life. He has dreams of the same halls, of the nightmare creatures with teeth in their stomach, teeth everywhere. The teeth that killed his brother now coming for him.
Yes, and I do appreciate that interpretation too, because I've seen people say that we have to be playing as Crying Child / Cassidy in FNAF 4 because the animatronics have stomach hatches. People say that FNAF 4 has to be Crying Child and has to be after Elizabeth's death. The reason that it's the Crying Child is because of Fredbear, and the reason that they have stomachs with teeth on them is because Crying Child saw what happened to Elizabeth, and that is why he is scared of the animatronics. I think this explanation is just fine. The bear bit his brother. I just don't think Crying Child saw Elizabeth's death. I just really don't. I think that they spell out that Elizabeth dies alone, and that's part of her tragedy, is that nobody witnesses her death. That's my thought on that.
Mama, kudos for saying that, for spilling.
How long he's there is questionable, but I don't actually think too long. We know as an adult, he has his own house that's in a neighborhood and not in the middle of the woods like the Afton house, and his neighbors seem to recognize and like him, so he's not in that chamber forever. If he's Fritz Smith in FNAF 2, he was out by 1987. Likely Will just kept him there for long enough that nobody would notice, or as long as William just wanted to experiment for. When Michael comes out, he's terrified and more traumatized than before, and he knows what will happen if he keeps questioning his father. So he shuts off, tries to keep living and keep going. He's fallen back into trying to get his father's approval as a trauma response to the abuse he's been going through. As Oswald does in Into the Pit, when nobody can tell his father is now a murderous yellow rabbit, he decides to play along. If he starts questioning, he has to live in a nightmare again. Or possibly the nightmare gas literally gaslit him into thinking he was just hallucinating the whole time, and his father is now the only person he can actually trust. Either way, his dad has full control of him.
I agree with this.
We mentioned later that we believe Michael was Fritz Smith, and it's basically confirmed he's the guard for FNAF 1. We know for a fact he was the later guard of Sister Location. All three of those, I believe, were as errands for his father. I think he's under the same level of control that Vanessa is in the 2023 film.
Hey, that's another thing that I said. I'm telling you, dual process theory. I just feel like for the things that I disagree with them about, the character analysis is on point. I'll say it like that.
Pretends to be a normal adult, he acts as though he has his own life, but really he's always just doing what his dad says. He can have his own house, sure, but he has to come
I feel
when his
for
dad
Vanessa
calls.
so hard.
And why wouldn't he? He's been gaslit and gassed at the same time.
Literally gaslit.
Just how dangerous his dad really is. The other part just wants his approval after all this time. For now, though, Michael has just become another tool of his father.
Yup.
Something that makes William very happy. For now.
Now, when does the rest of our story continue? 1987. When they realize the animatronics actually...
So they're saying that the nightmare gas stuff is happening before 1987?
We are haunted. Because of Charlie.
Wow, part 4 was short.
Was that the bite of 87?
When Charlie died, the puppet escaped its box and found her in the alley.
I get
Not
jump
waterproof,
scared.
though. The rain made it malfunction and crash on top of her, and her spirit attached itself to the animatronic.
True.
When it was repaired and put back inside, she woke up. She was in the pizzeria.
Hey, girly.
She could tell that she wasn't alone. And it was in Charlie's nature to protect the innocent. She could have moved on, but not while there were still children there who needed her. She recognized the souls inside of these animatronics like hers was, and decided to stay for them. It might have taken her a while, though, to figure out what exactly to do. The souls weren't in the animatronics exactly. They were wandering, like Susie in Fazbear Frights, going between places that were familiar, but always coming back to Freddy's. But Charlie wasn't wandering. She had full control of the puppet that had crashed atop her. Then she figured out it had to do with the bodies. Back to Tales from the Pizzaplex.
I like this, too, because it mimics the way that the original trilogy introduces us to the missing children. Instead of Charlie as the puppet, we see Carlton start to see that they need help being put back together. Now, this is a different part of the timeline than what they're describing this is technically happening later, but the introduction, the theme of these kids are confused until an outside force helps them understand that they are ghosts and they have passed on and gives them a vessel or a way to have some control over what that means for them.
Back to Tales from the Pizzaplex. In the same book as Didophobia is Alone Together, in which possession in the FNAF universe is basically explained to us beat for beat. The story shows that ghosts will wander, confused and lost, until finding their own body. Upon seeing themselves, they will suddenly become whole instead of broken and scattered. Their memories of their death return, and they understand where they are and what has happened.
Charlie Puppet figures this out, and then figures out where the bodies are. In the Give Gifts, Give Life minigame, she's not putting...
I think I'm understanding from here that they're saying because Charlie... No, this is still confusing to me. I'm assuming what they're saying, or I'm trying to understand what they're saying, is that because by the time the soul kind of emerged, or the ghost of the child was kind of there, the bodies had been stuffed in the suits, and they did not know that, whereas Charlie wasn't stuffed inside the puppet, so the puppet was able to physically lay eyes on Charlie's body. But I think they're about to explain it. So I'm sorry for pausing the video, but I think I just needed to collect my thoughts or I wasn't going to be able to move forward.
In the Give Gifts, Give Life minigame, she's not putting masks on dead children. Quite the opposite. She removes the masks and shows the ghosts their own bodies, stuffed into animatronics. They're able to remember who and what they are, and now they're able to fully possess the animatronics. No longer wandering spirits, they fuse themselves to their robot bodies.
Okay.
All except for Cassidy Afton.
The only thing that I would say that I don't love about that explanation is the idea that their bodies were stuffed inside the animatronic suits, but that their souls did not immediately possess those suits. But I don't know. It doesn't really matter either way. Like, right? Like, at the end of the day, the suits are possessed by the souls of the dead children, and Charlie is a vehicle for that in some way, shape, or form. If it's not literally getting the souls to possess their suits, it's getting these souls to be able to control those suits.
Charlie finds Fredbear, still left in the back room with Spring Bonnie. Cassidy is there, but he's confused and wandering. He's only half in that bear, half somewhere else. Never quite able
because
to bond.
His body is not
he
in
can't
that
even
area.
Move the suit from its slouching, sitting position.
Poor
Charlie
baby.
Puppet realizes that she can't help him because his body isn't inside of him.
Right.
So while the others become more in control, Cassidy slips away. He's been trying to appear to Michael, begging him to find him, but then Michael stops responding.
Because of the nightmare
Cassidy just has
gas.
to sit in that position, waiting, wandering. The main four animatronics, meanwhile, are now fully possessed.
Potentially not even
but
knowing
even
that he's
then,
dead,
the
right?
ghosts are a bit confused and lost. All they know is they fear adults, as any adult could be the one in the Spring Bonnie suit that had killed them. So they start attacking night guards.
The
Adults
cupcake.
are alone in the place, much like Spring Bonnie got them alone. And during the day, they just stare at the adults.
The idea of the cupcake being the dog, I think is really great. And I also think it's great symbolism that for Susie to be given the dog so that the cupcake has something in it, possessing it, that would listen to her and really be an extension of her and not its own entity in the same way that the other ones are. I don't think they ever explicitly state that in the theory, but that little shadow of like the dog behind the cupcake, I think is them implying that that's what they think. And I like that a lot. I really do. I don't really care what anybody else has to say about it. I just like it.
And during the day, they just stare at the adults, trying to figure out who is the enemy. Freddy's closes. It's been years, and the place still can't shake the tragedy that happened there. But a second location opens, a little while away. This is the FNAF 2 location.
What exactly was happening there, by the way? We know there was an investigation going on. Phone Guy says in his calls to Night Guard Jeremy Fitzgerald that there's something tragic going on out there that totally has nothing to do with them, Pinky Promise.
Yeah, nothing.
Then he says that an
Trust
investigation
source,
in
trust
the
me,
restaurant
bro.
happens, and they may have to close for a few days.
I want to emphasize, though, that it's really just a precaution. These things happen sometimes. It'll all get sorted out in a few days.
Then it's the building.
That is what they all say, isn't it? That is what they all say. It's really nothing to worry about. Please don't jump ship and quit the company. Please stay on until you show up one day and you don't have a job anymore and we don't have to off you severance pay.
Then it's, the building is on lockdown, nobody is allowed in or out, especially concerning any previous employees, and they are trying to track down the original owner of Fredbear's. He also implies that the day shift guard is the one who's gotten himself banned, as the position just became available.
We're gonna try to contact the original restaurant owner. I think the name of the place was Fredbear's Family Diner or something like that.
And I'm assuming that that's Junior's. Like, that's, at the very least, that's what this video's story is that when they're saying, like, I think the place is Fredbear's Family Diner, it was closed for years, doubt we'll be able to track anybody down, that is Junior's.
The next day, Phone Guy tells Jeremy Fitzgerald that the place will be closed for a while following this last birthday party, because someone had used the yellow suit in the back, causing the animatronics to go haywire. So what the f*** does any of that mean?
So, the Fazbear Corporation, after the inevitable closure of Freddy's, decides to open a new location. But this one will be safer, more high-tech. William may have been out of the franchise for a while, but he has to get back once they start talking about using the old animatronics. He can't let that happen. There's bodies in there.
Okay, so the bodies
so
are
he says,
still
outfit
in
them
there.
with new tech, and then says, you know, these guys are just so ugly. Let's just make new ones. The corporation lets him do that, so long as he uses parts from the originals to make...
And put pants on Chica. Give Chica panties so it's weird that she's not wearing a shirt. I explain this to people regularly because they're like, why is Toy Chica like that? Because they'll be like, she's just wearing a bib, it's so gross. Chica's only wearing a bib in the first game. She's only wearing a bib in the first game, but because she's not wearing pants, you don't think about it. Just like Freddy's only wearing a tie. I'm sorry. That's Chip and Dale's attire. Think about it. Like, none of them are wearing... Hello, Toast, come here. Horrible choice. I'm sorry. Anyway. This is not worth my energy.
The new ones. They gotta save costs as much as possible. William does that, but as he does, he starts noticing things.
I'm a gamer
the suits,
now.
Both old and new, are moving, and they really don't seem to like him. The new animatronics are given technology to recognize criminals. This shouldn't bother him. He is not a convicted criminal. But they still are wary of him. Even after the animatronics are complete, they're acting weird towards adults. And so
no
is the
grown-ups
puppet.
allowed.
He eventually takes a night guard position under a fake name to investigate further.
So why would William continue to use the security puppet after Henry's in jail? He could have just like discontinued that one, I would think. Maybe he's just like, that's good PR because it was a security puppet. I don't know. It didn't do a good job protecting Charlie. I mean, obviously for extenuating circumstances, but I just mean like, I don't know if the press is good on the puppet being a good security implementation.
And it's there that he realizes the truth. It did work. The animatronics are possessed. He can find immortality here and or bring his son back. In taking apart the original animatronics, he split the souls inside, like they were before they found their bodies, but worse.
Right.
The animatronics are now even more confused and erratic than they were at the first location.
Yeah,
Once he
okay.
realizes the night shift is a bit too dangerous, he's all alone after all, he switches to the day shift, and he decides to experiment some more by killing more kids. He's nothing if not frustratingly
Okay, so we are
consistent.
saying...
Whether or not any children actually died in the FNAF 2 location, or if this is just a metaphor for the first incident, is a debate within the fandom.
The only evidence we have is in the final FNAF 2 minigame, where Withered Freddy wanders the location and sees bodies scattered around,
Right.
along with the other Withereds. Is that supposed to just represent the MCI, or is it the DCI, a dead children incident? We think the DCI did happen, but William's experiments weren't working. He didn't shove these kids into suits, just killed them to see what would happen. He didn't use the spring Bonnie suit yet, though. That's still in the back rooms. Instead, he lures them with that f***ed balloon boy.
Has anyone ever asked what Balloon Boy's deal is? Is he
Yes. I think that's the main question we ask, actually, is what is his deal?
possessed? Did he get parts of the Withereds? Did he just appear out of the ether and we don't question him lest he damn us to hell for our transgressions? Wrong. He's a lure.
We know by the time William got to the
That does
Funtimes, he
make
made
sense.
Funtime Foxy specifically as a lure. He can't be the direct lure. It's too dangerous. He's too likely to be caught. So he starts using animatronics to do it. But instead of starting with Funtime Foxy,
Makes
he
sense.
starts with Balloon
Also,
Boy.
I think a good evidence point that they might not bring up, it's shaky, but it's evidence in my opinion, just kind of bouncing off of what they're doing here, is that in the movie, the kid who lures Max into the building, who ultimately chomps her, if you will, sounds like Balloon Boy to me. Like, is that sort of, hello, over here? Like, kind of energy? In a way. I feel like that could be evidence. The way Balloon Boy acts is similar to how people have been lured in other corners of the franchise.
Childlike, smiling boy who gives out presents to the kids. He gives them balloons, specifically something the kids would love. And he has very specific voice lines, one that kids would recognize and hear, and then they get grabbed. Heck, this is probably why Balloon Boy can walk, so that he can lead children directly to the Afton. And possibly him stealing the Night Guard's batteries keeps them from figuring out what's going on, making him a lure and a distraction. Or maybe he just wants
these sweet, succulent AA batteries.
And he might not just be a lure for the kids, he could be a lure for the animatronics as well. Recall in FNAF 3 that his voice lines are the ones that are used to lure Springtrap from room to room, to activate his sound-seeking sensors. This pre-recorded voice, put into Balloon Boy, serves as a lure for the children, and a lure for the animatronics to keep them away from where William is doing his work.
This is also, we should note, his purpose in the Twisted Ones.
It's true.
Charlie is lured to a specific area by his calls, thinking a child is in danger, and then is attacked by multiple wind-up Balloon Boys as the illusion
Balloon
discs
Boy
ramp up. He's a
in
lure in
the
the books, and he's a lure in the game.
Twisted Ones
That's
is
what Balloon
wacky.
Boy's deal is.
But the lure doesn't work on the puppet, which Phone Guy notes is always thinking, and it can go anywhere. Likely William figured out the puppet was Charlie around this time and that she was more aware than the others, as she hadn't been split into parts.
Right,
so
because
he
she's a
set up the music
puppet.
box to keep her quiet and keep her in one place.
So William is grabbing
But why
more
would
kids,
that
but
work?
not putting them in the suits. Personally, I think the reason for this is that there wasn't room. That's why the Funtimes are specifically designed with the shape of a curled up child inside of them, to make sure that the DCI waste doesn't happen again. But anyway, this starts up rumors and investigations. The new Freddy's opened,
As
and
it
now
would.
there's more kids going missing. It has to be connected to the company. Investigations begin, and the animatronics notice, and they figure out it's the security guard. Phone Guy says they've started acting aggressive towards the staff, the day before the day shift position becomes available. I believe that the morning of Night 5, or at least right after Night 4 ended, the DCI bodies were found, and they were found by the animatronics. The Save Them minigame shows a Freddy being led by the puppet throughout the place, seeing all the bodies, as well as watching Fredbear appear and disappear while avoiding the purple guy. Once the bodies are located, then the animatronics can do their job. Retrofitted with safety equipment, part of those have to give them the ability to contact police if they see a criminal. And this isn't just a guess. When Mengele enters the room, we can hear specifically them channeling into a police radio. They can reach the police, and when the toy animatronics see a f***ing bleeding dead body
It's an interesting explanation for
they're gonna
Mengele.
contact the
Or like
cops.
Mengele's
The day shift guard is
garbled,
immediately put under
electric
suspicion, since either he didn't
noises.
notice all this kid killing or was the one doing it. And William quietly slips away. He was under a fake name, they don't know it's him. The important thing is he has more information on his experiments, and he knows the possession is working.
Day 6, meanwhile, hell breaks loose. The animatronics were in free roam mode, and they see a yellow suit in the back. Either someone used Spring Bonnie, and everyone went nuts upon seeing their killer, or the Golden Freddy suit was what was moved. If Spring Bonnie was in that location, then obviously someone using that suit, heck, maybe William hiding out from the cops and then trying to escape without being spotted, would set off any and all MCI sensors. However, Fredbear is just as likely. We see it appear and disappear in the Save Them cutscene, so Cassidy is active, though likely as confused and lost as he was before, probably just projecting images. This also ties into the idea that he's still not fully possessing it. He's tied to it, but without his body being found, he can't make full use of the possession. Either of these suits could have been what set the animatronics off, enough that the place is completely closed
I will
down
say
at night.
that if it is revealed that this is just for the movie. This is just for the movie. This is just for the movie. If it is revealed that Golden Freddy is William's child, then it was smart of them to cast a blonde because Vanessa is blonde. So they're creating that potential connection there. And I think if they explored that in the movie, even if it didn't convince anybody of like what is in the games or whatever, I still think it would be like a really good angle for the movies to go. The idea of the vengeful spirit being related to Afton actually makes a lot of sense for who Afton is and the kind of children he would have. Your DNA is in that kid, so they have the capacity to be as volatile as you are. They have the capacity. Not that that would necessarily, like, it's bound to happen. That's not what I mean. Just that the capacity is there. You created this thing, your rival, in more ways than one.
But they've got one more thing to do. A birthday party scheduled for day 7.
Just
Why
give
this
it
is
up.
still going on is unclear.
Yeah.
My current theory is that the news of the bodies being discovered hasn't been made public yet, and the police have cleared enough
They're
of the
just
area
trying
to
to,
see if the killer would come back for this last pre-scheduled birthday. Killers love to go back to the scene of the crime, which is why police
Why would
stake
you
out
put
those places as
anybody
well as
in
victims'
that kind of
memorials.
danger?
So they stake out Freddy's. All Jeremy Fitzgerald is told to do is wear his uniform, stay close to the animatronics, and make sure they don't hurt anyone.
Well, that backfired.
Whoops.
The next day, at the birthday party, one of the animatronics takes a nice little bite out of Jeremy Fitzgerald's head.
So do they think Chica did it? Do they think Toy Chica did the bite? And that has something to do with her beak or something?
Building is ruled completely
I don't think they go
unsafe
into.
and
They
closed
say
down for
like
good.
ask us later.
They let the animatronics run around for one more night
But
under the eye of Fritz Smith,
that's
who was immediately
suspicious.
fired come morning for tampering with the robots that just put someone in the hospital. And then they pack them up and decide that the toy animatronics will be broken down and used to repair the originals.
As for Fritz Smith, probably Michael. Biggest evidence for this being that he is fired for the exact same reasons as in FNAF 1.
Yes, I agree with
Animatronic
that.
tampering and
That being
odor.
compelling
Michael
evidence.
is a stinky, stinky boy, and we all have to remember this. But
Michael is a
how
stinky,
did he get that
stinky
job
boy.
So fast? Phone guy tells Jeremy they don't have his replacement.
So they're
on
saying
the
sister location already happened at this point? I guess that's what they're saying.
night before, and custom night is the night of the bite.
Or he
Did
just has bad
come in and apply while the
hygiene.
bite was happening.
It happens,
While the place was
you know?
closed down
It happens
for
to
an
the best of
active
us.
crime scene. Can't be after because they scrapped the toys after. No, I think what this is another part of William's chess match. He has his son go in and, like Vanessa does in the film, clean up his mess. Mike is found tampering with the animatronics, but what he's really doing is hiding the last evidence his dad left behind.
I said that
He's under a
too.
fake name, just like William was, but
I'm not acting like I'm making some like wild revelations. Just when they say something that I have also said in a theory, I'm gonna like point it out because like, why not?
William also knows that it's time to be more low-key, so he begins working on his next experiments.
It's after the closure of Freddy's that Circus Baby's Pizzeria is opened, but it's only open for a day. It's the late 80s, possibly early 90s, and William is
I
ready
would
to continue his
say
experiments.
probably early
He's got
90s.
the original animatronics shoved up in the old Freddy's location, watched
But
over by night guards to make sure they don't escape.
I'm no
In the
expert.
meantime, he begins work on the Funtime animatronics.
I'm not even
They're
convinced
built
Scott's an
specifically to
expert.
capture children, as seen on the blueprints. They all have technology fitted in solely to serve this function. Funtime Foxy was already mentioned, but Laura is given deter and misdirect remote activation, showing that she was meant as a distraction, most likely to any adults in the area. Funtime Freddy and Circus Baby both have their spaces to store children in their stomachs, as well as sensors in order to count the children and adults in the area. Freddy specifically has parental tracking, as well as voice mimic / luring, similar to Foxy. These are the full intentions of these things. They are made to kidnap children.
Yes.
And it's specifically for these death experiments. Because when we see the blueprints of the scooper, we see it specifically equipped with a remnant injector and remnant reservoir.
Yep.
William fully knows about remnant now, and he's working to inject the Funtimes with as much of it as possible. But the animatronics only work for one day. Circus Babies opens with a party, and Elizabeth Afton attends. William, knowing how dangerous this stuff was, told Elizabeth to under no circumstances go play with Baby alone.
After also
So,
saying
of
that
course,
she
goes
was
to play
made
with
for
Baby alone.
Elizabeth.
She doesn't understand the danger of these animatronics after all. Cassidy died when she was a toddler, and these are her daddy's creations. How could they be bad? Then she ends up alone with Baby, and Baby does what she's programmed to do. Kidnap any child left alone.
Woof.
But it doesn't work. Baby fucks up, or Elizabeth fights too much, or something wasn't programmed properly. Or maybe she was programmed to kill immediately after all. Because instead of just kidnapping her, the scooper inside of Baby brutally kills Elizabeth.
It also just could be that William didn't know that Elizabeth was kidnapped in that moment because he told her to stay away and just assumed she would listen or whatever. And she stayed in there and just suffocated over time. I mean, she would not have to be in there that long, especially if it did happen outside. We don't know that it happened outside. The game could just be a game and not a literal representation of where Circus Baby was at the time. But especially if they were outside, it would not take her long to suffocate inside of a robot in the hot sun. Just saying. I'm not arguing with what they are saying. I'm just offering another alternative too, that it could have just been that it was a violent death in the sense that it did take longer because they just didn't know she was in there. I think that there is a story in Fazbear Frights that is like that, where they did, like, nobody knew that the girl was in there. So she died over time. But I could be wrong. I may be completely misremembering a story, so don't take that as gospel.
After all, people started reporting seeing strange things around a place. Just as William brings the Funtimes back to his nice little bunker, he realizes that Elizabeth isn't gone. Baby's eyes have gone from blue to Elizabeth's green. The experiments are working. See, Elizabeth is in Circus Baby, definitely. But she's not Elizabeth. Not quite. She doesn't remember him. She barely remembers anything. That won't do. He can't just have his daughter's soul living on. He needs his daughter. It's also possible that this is why she has what appears to be a Mimic 1 chip. She wasn't acting right, so I wanted to program her to, but that's a whole discussion for another time. So Willy Boy starts renting out the animatronics as a cover, while still doing experiments and figuring out what's going on. Michael's an adult now, and he's either moved out or was kicked out. He has his own place in a nice neighborhood where the residents seem to like him, but he's still under his father's influence. He's not in the bunker. We know that from his message to William that he had to be told where it is.
Right.
But where he is Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria. He took a job at the old Freddy's, working as a security guard after the disappearance of Phone Guy under the name Mike Schmidt.
Okay, so
but his
now it's
tampering with the
FNAF 1.
animatronics and his depression stinkiness was noticed and reported.
Depression
Maybe he was indeed
stinkiness.
starting
Oh, that's
to
what
rebel
they're
a bit
that's
by
what they're
figuring out what
saying
was
is that
happening
he's
with them.
stinky because
Maybe
he's
he was
depressed.
trying to retrieve parts for his father's experiments. But more importantly, just before he gets fired, Michael starts seeing Cassidy again, appearing as Fredbear. Cassidy is
saying, "It's
appearing in
me."
and out of his field of vision, screaming, "It's me." Cassidy has been
Yeah.
a wandering soul for maybe a decade now, and he's probably forgotten himself, but he recognizes Michael. Michael, however, doesn't mention this to his father. Last time he saw Golden Freddy, he got nightmare gas fun time, but it doesn't matter anyway, because he gets fired and William gets notified.
William decides to cut the whole security guard thing over there. He'll take care of Michael, and he'll take care of the animatronics. First, he makes sure Fredbear is safe in the bunker. Now that Cassidy's hidden, William can't just leave the animatronics there alone, so he goes, night by night, and rips them apart.
Okay.
Lures them to the back room they can't enter and tears off their limbs one by one. He can use their remnant to advance the Funtimes. He starts injecting the remnant of the missing children into the Funtimes, but in doing this, he fucks up again. When making the toys, he still
He's
knew
just a
which parts
shoddy
went where.
scientist.
Now he's melting down all of the children into one glob and splitting it up again, breaking the souls into something confused, angry, and even more hostile than before. But this time, they recognize him outside of the Spring Bonnie suit. They remember him as the FNAF 2 day guard, and they know who he is and what he's done. Baby's been injected with some of the remnant too, and she has little to no
My cats just spooked each other and it spooked me.
And she has little to no memories of being Elizabeth.
Something happened when there was one. A little girl, standing by herself. I was no longer myself, and I stopped singing. I still hear her sometimes.
She knows Afton as the guy who's shocking her and forcing her to do things she doesn't want to do. They're all hostile to him now, and it's not safe for him to be down there. But he still wants to fix Elizabeth.
I think that this makes sense. I think that this is the only way this makes sense is if Elizabeth does not know herself fully until after the scooping and we take that chip out. Similar to what FNAF has said in the past, it's Circus Baby until the scooping happens, and then it's entered and it's Elizabeth who seems to be in Innard. And that's why she gets kicked out, is because once she's more Elizabeth, she's not against William anymore because she remembers him as her father. Whereas before that, she doesn't remember him as her father. So there's something that switches up in those moments.
Well, time to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Or more aptly, kill 1 bird to resurrect another.
He goes to his son, his little precious baby boy that he totally 100% loves so much, and tells him that he can make up for the sins of his past. He can bring back Elizabeth, put her back together. All he has to do is go down there and fix her. Go down there and get himself killed. He knows the Funtimes want to kill him. He knows they're going to mistake Michael for him. Michael's an adult now, and he looks a lot like his dad. They'll attack Michael instead, and either he'll fix Elizabeth or die trying.
As a sacrificial
Michael,
lamb.
of course, jumps at the chance. Michael wants to believe his dad, and more than that, he wants to believe that he can bring his sister back.
And that's
Bring both of his
also
siblings back.
something
this
that
with his-
I was talking about. I talk about a lot of this in the Michael's full story revealed, where I'm talking about Vanessa and Michael in the movie, and how the FNAF movie seems to illuminate a lot about what Michael's plight is when dealing with all of this stuff. And one of the things that I said was very similar to that, about him being tricked into doing these things by being told he can bring his sister back.
His prank on Cassidy, and now he can fix it.
In the meantime, William goes back to the FNAF location. He's ripped all the animatronics apart by now, but he could use the extra parts. And more importantly, it's time to finally go back for that spring Bonnie suit. What he doesn't expect is to see ghosts there. The MCI are mostly
Surprise!
sometimes confused and lost. You know who isn't? Charlie. Charlie is still the puppet, and she's pissed. She was here just to protect the innocent, and William's taken everything from them again. Taken their lives apart, broken them when they had finally found themselves. Now, the question of what exactly happens in William's death minigame is vague. The MCI are in the Funtimes by now, so how could their ghosts be there? We know they're in the Funtimes, as in the FNAF 6 Insanity ending, Henry talks specifically about how William took everything away from his victims again.
Yeah, I think this is what I was thinking earlier. I don't know if I said something about it, but I was like, huh, this is confusing.
And that he was alive right before Sister Location because the animatronics recognize Michael as him. How are the ghosts there and not there? How are they supposed to astral project over to Afton? To be honest, the correct answer is probably Cawthon didn't think this part through because he was making up the lore as he went along. LMAO. But from a Watsonian perspective, I see 4 options. 1, Charlie managed
From
to get
a Watsonian perspective, okay. I think at some point, in some instances, we do have to just concede that it doesn't all fit together super perfectly. In a more literal sense, you kind of have to like accept that some of this stuff has become symbolic over time because Scott wasn't intending to add to the lore until he did. You know what I mean?
enough of the ghosts in one place to piss off Afton. 2, Cassidy has already projected images of Fredbear to people before. Maybe he or Charlie are projecting those images to scare the fuck out of him. 3, these are the agony remnants of the kids, while only the remnant was taken away, which would be complicated.
Correct.
4, Afton just snuffed some nightmare gas prior to his death and is hallucinating literally all of this.
Well, I don't think that's
nightmare gas
it.
sure is handy. But I do believe that Charlie is the 5th ghost that confronts William, not Cassidy. Cassidy is still wandering and lost.
I think that's fine. That's fine. Okay, I'm fine with that. I mean, it's not like I ever did think that the crying child was there with them, but it's interesting that the 5th one is not Golden Freddy.
He's shut off completely, cut off from the world, hidden underground. He has nowhere to wander except his own mind.
What I believe Didophobia coming home and Alone Together were trying to tell us was that FNAF 4 may have been Cassidy reliving the events leading up to his death, wandering the same halls like Rory, and always managing to, like Susie, return to Freddy's, and then start all over again.
Fair enough.
His spirit is attached to the suit, hidden away, but his body is elsewhere and he's stuck wandering, waiting to be found.
But the point is that at some point, William gets to FNAF and starts seeing ghosts. He begins freaking out. He's been experimenting with spirits, but he hasn't seen any yet. He's seen moving animatronics, not fully realized specters of the children he murdered. He gets into the Spring Bonnie suit still in the back room, hoping that it will either scare them into submission or fool them into thinking he's one.
One thing I will say is that I don't seem to have a whole lot to say about part 6, so there's a non-zero chance that a lot of this has been cut. I would just watch the original and then watch this reaction.
One of them. But the spring locks have gotten way worse over the years of neglect, and upon laughing once, William is spring-locked and killed. With the ghosts of his past
Just makes a
staring
lot
down
of sense for Vengeful
Michael,
Spirit to be
meanwhile,
here in
is
this
having
moment.
just about
It's
as
really
fun
hard
of a
for me to
time.
accept that they're
No pun
not,
intended.
unless
These
Crying Child is
animatronics
the
have
Vengeful
put their heads
Spirit.
together and gotten themselves a great old
Which
plan.
it feels like they said that
Disembowel
they
the guy
don't think
who's
Crying
hurting
Child
them,
is the Vengeful
wear him as a
Spirit.
skin suit, and get the hell out of the bunker that's electrocuting them over
Profit.
and over. They're like 7 years old. They don't know that bodies decay. This is a great idea to them.
Remember the multiple gas cans of
Do they
nitrous
not know the
oxide
bodies
in
decay if
sister
they've not seen their
location?
own bodies? They've
There
seen
are
their
some
own bodies.
technical
Their own
reasons
bodies
it
are
could be
decayed.
there. It's got many uses, including in mechanics, pumping it into pipes, using it in active machinery, but the fact that it is shown specifically in Ruin is raising several alarm bells that it is important. Mainly that it is being pumped directly into the room, as seen by the smoke Cassie runs through. The question is, of course, why would they be pumping the gas into the scooping room? So, one of nitrogen's usage is food preservation. It keeps organic material fresh, which can include human bodies. We see Circus Baby's exoskeleton in Night 5, no body to be seen, and no signs of decay like the original animatronics. Is it possible that, after Elizabeth was captured and mangled, William had to scoop Baby in order to get her out? Elizabeth could have, possibly, felt herself being scooped from the inside and out at the same time.
The scooper only hurts for a moment.
It's possible that the nitrogen was able to be pumped in order to preserve Elizabeth. It's entirely possible that her body was still down there in the bunker. We also know Scrap Baby had to return there at some point in order to repair herself, hence the parts of Baby exoskeleton and lights from the control room which weren't present and entered.
Fair enough.
If, say, she found herself the way Travis did in Alone Together, that could explain why she seems a bit more aware in FNAF 6.
Potentially.
Michael listens to Circus Baby, knowing his sister is in there. She doesn't recognize him though, and just like the others, probably sees him as his father, and Michael gets clued into this. The animatronics, after 4 nights of putting their plan together, and shoving Michael into Golden Freddy, come on guys, finally lure Michael into the scooper. That day, they'd scooped themselves and killed any employees around. They then scooped Michael himself, ready to use him as their cool new skin suit to escape.
Yes.
And it's gonna be a while before any people realize they're gone.
Their plan works for about a week, until the body starts, decaying and vomits up the endoskeleton into the sewers.
Then something unexpected happens. Something William didn't anticipate. Michael gets up. And let's talk about why.
Okay.
A lot of people chalk this up to the remnant injector on the scooper, but I really don't think that's it.
Okay.
It may give him the metal necessary to possess a corpse rather than a bot, at least for now, but the remnant itself isn't his own. It's someone else's remnant in him, not allowing him to possess himself. The remnants of Emmett's metal might help, but it really seems that the possession wasn't an accident. Michael forces himself back into his own decaying corpse out of sheer determination and sheer fury. Let's really look at Michael's message to his dad.
Okay.
Father, it's me, Michael. I did it. I found it. It was right where you said it would be. They were all there. They didn't recognize me at first, but then they thought I was you. And I found her. I put her back together, just like you asked me to. She's free now. But something is wrong with me.
Stop!
I should be dead, but I'm not. I've been living in shadows. There is only one thing left for me to do now. I'm going to come find you. I'm going to come find you.
So, I like this. And I will also add briefly that the voice actor for William Afton oh my gosh, technically he is the voice of William Afton, but also the voice of Michael Afton, who is what I'm talking about right now. The voice of Michael Afton said that this speech sounded to him like someone who wanted answers, someone who was searching for answers. So I think that might strengthen their argument. Again, that's not canon. That's not like the truth. That's just what the actor felt reading those lines. So it's worth noting either way, in my opinion. I did it, so let's keep going.
The first part of the quote is said sadly, desperately. I did it. I did what you asked me to do. I did it well. I did what you wanted. Just like I did when I was a child at home trying to avoid your anger.
I did what you wanted.
I did it. Right where you said it would be.
I should have made you proud. But then I realized who was there. They were all there. All the souls you killed. The ones I didn't think were inside this bunker. And they thought I was you. Michael says this with a lot of emphasis on you, hinting at a dark amusement followed by a scoff.
Fair enough.
He then says she's free now. In saying that, it's become clear that despite Elizabeth and the Funtimes literally ripping him open, he doesn't seem to blame them for what's happened to him. He's not saying she escaped or she did this.
To that point, in the trailer for Sister Location, she says, "Don't hold it against us. You have no idea what we've been through."
This to me, only that she's free now, because he doesn't blame her. He is okay that his sister is free. What he's not okay with is the next thing he says. Something is wrong with me. I should be dead, but I'm not. I've been living in shadows. There is only one thing left for me to do now. I'm going to come find you. The line is repeated for emphasis, and the second time it's said slower and with more venom. It is not a simple self-invitation. It is a threat.
I've had people tell me he sounds confused in this section, but it does not sound like confusion to me. He recounts in the call that he remembers what his father said to him, the mission given to him, the events leading up to the scooper, the fact he was killed and Ennard escaped, and the fact he is still here. He is not confused on that. He is very, very certain. What is even more certain is that he is going to find William.
He's not going over there to find Elizabeth with him. He's going over there to punish him.
Interesting.
Because Michael
I paused at a really
he should not have
interesting
killed.
point. That's what I got spoiled for me, which is unfortunate. So I had this whole thing spoiled for me. Unfortunately, less of like a big like moment for me. It was interesting because it's like the last part of this reaction, I was like, they're saying that Golden Freddy is crying child Cassidy, but not the Vengeful Spirit. I don't dislike the idea of Michael being the Vengeful Spirit in so much as he's obviously got reasons to have a vendetta against his father. There's just other reasons why this does not totally work for me. Obviously, we haven't watched the part yet, so they're gonna tell us more. Hopefully, I have more to say in this section because I've been kind of quiet this video, unfortunately.
So, here's the thing. We discussed in part 3 how Cassidy is the name of the crying child, not a separate missing child. Does that make the crying child the Vengeful Spirit? It's possible, but the bits of evidence toward that pale in comparison to the idea of Michael Afton as the Vengeful Spirit. Sure, William may not have killed him directly, but the way Michael says it was right where you said it would be, they thought I was you, followed by a scoff, and just like you asked me to, this all tells me there is another thing he is certain of. That William knew this would happen.
Right,
William
and
knew
that's
where the
fair.
location was, and that he was sending Michael to his death. William knew that if he went down, they would find a way to kill him.
Right.
But he wanted Elizabeth put back together because she was a child he actually cared about. He did not care about Michael. He blamed him for killing Cassidy, and if again we take the Midnight Motorist minigame and questionably canon books into account, he was openly abusive towards him. So he decided just to trade Michael for Elizabeth. Send him down to finish his work of putting Elizabeth together and let the animatronics do what they will. Turns out...
I still am more personally attached to the narrative that at some point along the way, if not from the beginning, William saw the animatronics as a better way to be, as like the next step, as more than a person. While maybe in the beginning his pursuit was to like bring these kids back, the ultimate purpose of the experiments became how to make them as themselves as he could while still being the animatronics, because that was the better way for them to be, because they'd be immortal and they wouldn't have all these weaknesses that humans have. Obviously he's down there experimenting with like human like robots, so maybe that is kind of the end game, is that the robots should be as human like as possible so that they can assimilate into society more easily. More than I like the idea that he like loved 2 of his kids, but not Michael. I do understand the argument of, well, he blamed Michael for Cassidy's death, but he would also then blame Elizabeth for her own death because she didn't listen to him. I just don't think he has some like daddy's little girl kind of energy. I just don't. But that's just me personally, just putting it out there.
Their plan worked out just as William wanted. Michael was dead, Elizabeth was free. But Michael came back, and Michael was pissed. Man was pissed enough to possess himself. When he says, "There is only one thing left for me to do now." That is the unfinished business tethering him as a ghost. He has one thing left to do on Earth, and it is giving his father some good old karma for sending him to a painful and violent death. His father had kept him entangled in this web of insanity for far too long. Michael was killed because of what his father had done, and because his father had sent him down there, knowing what was going to happen. They killed Mike thinking he was William, and thinking they were using their killer's skin to escape. Does this make them completely innocent? No, not really. They killed at least 2 technicians, and God only knows what they were up to in between FNAF 5 and 6. But that does not mean Mike will blame them over William, but he knows William is the one who killed them. William is the one they
and their minds are
intended to
kind
kill,
of
and
messed
William
up
is the
from
one
that
who knew all of
entire
this
process.
and still sent Mike down to die. He sent Mike down because he did not care about his son, and he was fine with him dying if it meant getting his precious Elizabeth back, or getting his experiments going again, whatever motive you choose to read for him. He sent Michael down into a bunker full of people he killed who wanted revenge on him, and in that way, he killed Mike. So Michael was killed by William's actions. He is the one William should not have killed.
Another thing we know for certain is that he possessed himself for a long time. FNAF 3 is stated to be set 30 years after Freddy's closed. Sister location seems to
he says he's
occur
been
pretty
living in the
soon after
shadows.
that same-
I think that also tracks with what I have always said, that the immortal and the restless, you can make whatever inferences about, what the actual, like, cartoon is about, the soap opera, but the title, The Immortal and the Restless, I do think is referencing Michael and his plight with being immortal and restless, not wanting to live like this, but feeling for some reason like he can't move on. So I would agree with that.
Closure. Michael walked around as a corpse for potentially decades, without giving up, without moving on, because he knew it was time to find his dad, stop what he was doing, and make him understand the pain he'd been put through. I don't know about you, but that sounds like a very determined and vengeful spirit to me. Honestly, he was a vengeful spirit in the games
to have him represented
old man
by a
consequences
little
and walking
kid.
backwards into hell.
It is highly speculated and highly likely that Michael was the night guard in FNAF 3. This would retroactively explain Springtrap's odd jump scare, looking for more like confused recognition than outward animosity. And again, the logbook places Foxy, who's heavily associated with Michael.
Yeah, exactly. I would agree with that wholeheartedly.
This would also imply that the fire in FNAF 3 was intentional, in an attempt to fully remove William from the equation. Mike really said, "I'ma set my dad on fire," and then did it more than once like the icon he is.
But where he fails to kill William, Henry picks up. I mean, it seems like he finally pieced together William was the killer, figured out about the possession stuff, and went on a tirade. The question is, did he escape? Serve his sentence? Honestly, what we think is most likely is that the cops finally tracked down that secret bunker, saw all the blood and guts, and were like, oh, yeah, it was William.
Yeah, I do think that, personally, I'm of the mindset that Henry has to have gone into the sister location bunker at some point to get the blueprints. There are other ways that he could have gotten them, but that, I think, tracks.
But the important thing is Henry gets out, and Henry gets to work.
He figures out about the murders, about the possessions, and that the animatronics are still out there.
I think he knew about the murders.
And after spending decades serving for a horrible crime he didn't commit, knowing that is what kept him away from his daughter that fateful night, he knows it's time to end it.
And I really do agree with that.
So he opens a Freddy's. Probably under a fake name considering everything. But he takes that Fazbear package and shops out for a manager while he gets the trap ready. He turns the building into a labyrinth to trap any animatronics that make their way in there. He builds Lefty, or rebuilds him out of Carney, but that's a whole different story, solely to capture the puppet. Wherever the Charlotte's been hiding. Honestly, if I had to guess, she may have been trying to find Cassidy's body all this time, to finish giving gifts and life to the last victim she knew of. As for the other animatronics, we know from a secret dialogue from scottgames.com that Ennard split into Scrap Baby and Molten Freddy after they decided Elizabeth was kind of a freak and voted to kick her out of the hive mind.
Yeah, they did do that. I would say it's possible, and I'm not saying this as fact, but I would say it's possible that Charlotte was in the bunker in some capacity, because I wouldn't put it past William to have captured the puppet and she just eventually escapes. There's no trace of her in sister location, but there's no trace of her anywhere else either. So I'm not saying that, again, don't take that as my word, and that's what I'm saying. But that's like a potential that he was experimenting on her as well.
You would be lost without me.
So, say goodbye to our friend.
The split, however, clearly fucked them up quite a bit, as Molten Freddy is nothing but a mess of limbs causing problems, and Scrap Baby has, like Michael before her, reverted to, okay, let's just do whatever Dad says. As Henry references her not remembering her own name, it's likely she's fallen into basic instincts. Attack things that move, keep self alive, make Daddy proud of me.
Right.
It's been often speculated that she may have had this agenda the whole time, but really, I don't see why she'd kill the guy she thinks is her beloved dad. Ennard's whole plan was to stay in that body.
Exactly.
She didn't know how decaying worked. But her dad's here now, too.
I'm just now realizing that before, when they said that, like, oh, they don't know how the decaying process works, or they don't know about that. They're speaking about the way that they've become more, the Funtimes have become more animalistic and may even be a different set of kids. I get it now. Just saying.
Say hi to Scrap Trap.
As we discussed
That's
in
so
part
funny.
3, Scrap Trap definitely seems to have repaired himself from the FNAF free fire using Fredbear's parts. I mean, it's his secret bunker.
I
He
still
goes
haven't
down
watched
there
that.
only
I meant to
find
watch that
Fredbear
video
is
before
just
this
as
one,
still
but
and
I still
unmoving as he
haven't.
always
Sorry.
thought it was. He never saw it move, never realized Cassidy was in there all along, and it infuriates him enough to finally rip apart the thing that killed his son and stick it to himself.
Only Cassidy is in there, and he's been in that bunker for decades alone and undiscovered. Scrap Trap makes his way to the restaurant to continue his reign of terror that started with this suit, with putting Cassidy inside and letting him be broken further in hopes of putting him back together, ruining so many lives.
I don't know. This part confuses me for other reasons, but I'm riding the waves.
Lives in the process, including his, and including Michael's. And he's walking right into Michael and Henry's trap.
I do
When
love
Henry
this.
gives his
I do
final
love
monologue, he
Michael
implies
and
that he's
Henry's
figured
kind
out
of
who the
team
guard
up.
was, and it was someone who he didn't expect. The guard found a job listing not intended for you. Henry didn't know what happened to Michael, and he didn't want to bring him into this, just hoping he'd moved on with his life. Unbeknownst to him, Michael was unable to, and so he found the Freddy's location with familiar animatronics in the back alley and Henry's voice on the tapes, and took the job knowing how it would end. Henry says he left a way
Does
for
he
the
know
guard
who
to escape,
Henry
but
is,
realized
though?
that
Like, is
he's where
he
wants to be.
aware of that
This
part of the
means that
story
Henry
by
was
now,
not
you
in
think?
communication with Michael, but figured out his intentions there pretty quick. And yes, Michael intended to follow Henry's plan and free all of them in a fire. But he wasn't going to let his dad go that easily. Sure, he let the other spirits leave. He let his and his dad's spirits leave. He'd been a dying body for years, and Scrap Trap couldn't remain to cause any more harm. But Michael had spent decades living in the shadows, surviving off of one sole goal. He was a walking corpse fueled by the hatred of his father. He's
That's
been
kinda
hunting
funny.
him the whole time, and he's not letting him go now. So he follows his soul to hell and takes control. He tailors a torture just for him.
And if you ask, how can he do that? Same could be said for Cassidy. They're ghosts now, they can just do things, I guess.
I guess.
Of the few things we know about the Vengeful Spirit and Ultimate Custom Night, we know that it was a victim of Williams, and that he had been in the FNAF 6 fire.
He's here and always watching. The one he shouldn't have killed. Greetings from the fire, and from the one you should not have killed.
He refers to Henry in the third person, saying,
He tried to release you. He tried to release us. But I'm not gonna let that happen. I will hold you here. I will keep you here. No matter how many times they burn us.
This means the spirit is not Henry. It's not Elizabeth, who was
Right.
on her dad's side at the time
Certainly
she
not,
finally
no.
died for real. We also know it's not Charlotte.
I don't hate you, but you need to stay out of my way.
Whether she's talking to the player or the spirit running the hell is unclear, but stay out
Oh
of my
gosh,
way is
text
a hell of a
text
thing
attack.
to say
Hold
to
on.
someone you're
That felt important.
running the hell is unclear.
Okay. Personally, after putting more thought into it, I do think she's talking to the player, that being the one making the hell. It confirms to me that it's not her because she can be as much of a ray of sunshine as she can be, and there's no way she'd say, I don't hate you, to the worst man alive who killed her and those she protects. Okay, so they think that ultimately what I'm reading in this text is that they do believe that Charlotte is talking to the player, the one making the hell.
But stay out of my way is a hell of a thing to say to someone you yourself are keeping prisoner. Scratch Charlie.
The only other people in that fire were the Molten MCI, about half the remains of Cassidy, and Michael himself. As we mentioned, it doesn't make narrative sense for the super powerful vengeful spirit to be random kid we never talk about. Cassidy is a solid maybe. But the evidence from Michael? Oh boy.
It doesn't track in a narrative sense for the big good to be some background character.
I will say I do not see Cassidy as the big good of the franchise. I don't disagree with what they're saying about it doesn't make sense for the vengeful spirit to be someone we don't really know very well. But I don't agree with the notion that the vengeful spirit is the big good of the series. I think that the vengeful spirit's decision to do this to William, while understandable, like, justice kind of thing, I do think that ends up being the catalyst for why William is able to further come back in later installments in the series. And I think that Old Man Consequences is trying to appeal to the senses of vengeful spirit by being like, leave the demon to his demons, rest your soul, there is nothing else. Like, please rest. And vengeful spirit is like, no, I can't rest. Like, this person has to suffer for eternity. They hurt so many people for so long. I like all of that stuff, but I think that does not make them the big good. It makes them sort of like a vigilante kind of, where they seek out justice, but the execution of it is flawed. That's all I'll say.
To have it be the son of the killer, the victim of his lifelong abuse who was killed brutally because of him, to have the spirit attacking the story's villain over and over be the character we have been playing as for several games. We were Michael for FNAF, if not all of them. If he was Fritz Smith, we played as him in FNAF 2. He could have been the guard in FNAF 3. He knows Nightmare Fredbear, so he went through FNAF 4 like we did. He was definitely the protag in 5 and 6. We've been Michael the whole time. So why stop now? Why not end
I think
the
that is
series with
compelling
the man we
evidence.
began it with? Why not end Afton's reign by the hand of the one who, no matter how accidentally, started it?
Symmetry, my friend. Who the hell?
Michael checks several boxes.
I
of
think
what we know
that's
of the
good.
spirit.
I think that's
He was
good.
in the fire. He blames William for his death. He's pissed as hell, and he's determined enough to be the one that William should not have killed. As mentioned, that's not a morality assessment. It's a statement of this is the one that was going to come back and get you at the end. And he said, over and over, I am going to come find you. The only thing that doesn't 100% line up is the spirit being
Okay,
portrayed
good.
as a
They're
child,
addressing
but
this.
even then, there's a ton of explanations. Either using Cassidy's likeness as part of his taunt, or he's reverted into his younger self. The little boy who got abused and neglected and locked into nightmares. The little boy who died with Cassidy.
Potentially.
Now think of important lines in Ultimate Custom Night.
I've been looking for you, and now I will never let you go.
You knew I'd get you eventually.
I'm going to come find you.
When I'm here, you play by my rules.
This time, death cannot save you.
Really interesting that Nightmare Fredbear uses the phrase put you back together, something Michael quoted directly back to his father.
Let me put you back together, then take you apart all over again.
Speaking of the nightmares, most of them have lines relating to, guess what? I'm real this time. Almost like the spirit is someone who'd seen the monsters back when they weren't real. But they're real now. And
That does
just
make
for
sense.
Will.
Like the nightmares specifically.
I am very real. I am given flesh to be your tormentor. This time, there is more than an illusion to fear.
But most importantly, Ned Bear, overlaid with the voice of the vengeful spirit itself, says,
This is how it feels, and you get to experience it over and over and over again, forever. I will never let you leave.
This one is definitely attributed to the spirit, as its voice is overlaid. What is it exactly? Death? No, William knows how it felt to die. He got killed by the Springlocks. He doesn't need a personal hell to tell him that. Instead, he needs to be told how it felt to play FNAF. Michael went through at least 3 of the 6 games, most likely all 6, over and over and over again. The Vengeful Spirit knows how it feels to be in this office. The MCI wouldn't know that. Charlotte wouldn't know that. Michael would. Because Michael was almost always the main character. The entire series has been him chasing his father, and now his father has to deal with what he made Michael deal with.
Oh. But why, you ask? Wouldn't he just let William's soul pass on? Surely no, he'd just go to hell. That's eternal torment already. Sure, yeah, let's assume
Well, he doesn't know
but
that.
Michael doesn't just want William to go to hell. He wants to torture him himself. He's been hunting him for decades, and he wants his vengeance. Revenge is a funny emotion. It is anger that demands an outlet. When you've selected
Steven
an outlet
Universe
and
mentioned.
that outlet is not available to you, the pain does not go away. Michael's been looking for his outlet for a while, and once he has it, he will not let him go. He's going to make him suffer, as his father made him suffer through his entire life and afterlife. He didn't get to be the one to burn his father, so he's going to be here to burn him over and over and over again. Which is what leads to the old man consequences scene. The man says,
"Come and sit with me for a while.
If you do," he says,
Leave the demon to his demons. Rest your own soul. There is nothing else."
Right.
Also note that if you speed up the background audio, you can hear screaming, which sounds an awful lot like Henry Michael Help. There's been theories that Old Man Consequences is Henry. They speak in a similar manner with similar sentence structures and vocabulary.
In general, with the flip side under account, and seeing how these motifs are so closely associated with Henry, I have a hunch that Henry is Old Man Consequences.
I felt this before too.
And
I
if
just
we go
couldn't
with
make the
Bradford's
connection
theory
between the
that FNAF
alligator
world is
and
Charlotte's way of
Henry.
helping the children pass on, it would make sense for him to help her. His daughter won't move on until everyone can, so he is there to help her. And he will sit at the lake and wait for Michael, a child he once knew, to tell him to rest like the rest of them. Which would imply that when William is screaming for help in the cutscene, he is screaming to the 2 people who are actually there.
Anyway, what happens when you speak to Old Man Consequences? Well, the game will crash. Because that's the thing about revenge. Once you get it, it doesn't stop the anger.
Yeah.
It does not stop the pain.
Exactly.
Michael is in an eternal cycle, able to take out his anger on his father as much as he wants for as long as he wants. Over and over. But it is not soothing his soul. It is not giving his soul the rest he needs. William will be tormented with or without him, and he needs to move on from his father's hell. But Michael does not think he deserves to. Let's look at one of Withered Bonnie's lines.
What is this prison? Is it me trap or is it you? Perhaps it's us both.
Let us not forget one thing. Michael did help kill the crying child.
Exactly.
And the number that must have done on his mental health is exponential.
Truly.
We know from the epilogue of the game how devastated he was. When William reached out to
I
him
don't
to
know if
bring
he ever
Elizabeth back,
recovered
as
from
we
that.
mentioned, a possibility
Sorry,
of
I'm wiping my
redemption
nose.
for
I have
Cassidy
cat
may
hair.
have been the dangling carrot in front of him. But it didn't bring back his siblings. It just caused more problems, and caused Michael to shamble around as a zombie for decades.
Correct.
There's probably some part of him that thinks he deserves this as much as William does. Michael was the one who shoved his brother into a bear's mouth. Michael dragged his dad to hell and then trapped
And if it's the
himself
first
there,
death, that also
supposedly
is
in order
the
to
cycle.
torment him over and over again. But instead, he's tormenting himself over and over because he still blames himself and is punishing himself for what he did.
Right, exactly.
Is it me trapped or is it you, he asks. Perhaps it's us both. This is a torment cycle for both of them.
I will say I do like them exploring the lines of all of the animatronics in Ultimate Custom Night to attribute them to Michael in some way as the Vengeful Spirit. I like that a lot because they do it with the mediocre melodies which is interesting enough on its own. Maybe still deserves a little bit more exploration, why those in particular. But I think that extending that beyond just the mediocre melodies is kind of a really good way to show how in control the Vengeful Spirit is of everything that's going on in here, not just that it exists at all.
That's why Old Man Consequences tells him to leave William and rest his own soul. Michael doesn't think he deserves to, which is why he won't. The theme music of Ultimate Custom Night, or at least the menu music, is entitled Isoptrophobia, which is a fear of mirrors and reflections.
Oh, yes. I've looked this up before.
To Michael fearing looking in the mirror and seeing his father, or
yeah, the
seeing
fact
a
that
robot or
the mirror
corpse
is
instead.
directly connected to
Or
Michael is
could
worth
this be
pointing out.
referring
I
to
like that a
William
lot.
refusing to reflect on himself, on the horrible things he's done. This is the theme of the entire game. It's got to be important that it's named this.
Yeah, exactly.
William's hell
I
is
think that's
seeing all his
right.
crimes and mistakes reflected back at him. He sees the monster he's become. He sees himself as Springtrap and Scraptrap. He sees his murders, he sees his failures, and when he completes 50-20 mode, he sees the moment he killed the son he promised to put back together.
That scene of Fredbear twitching is not saying that Golden Freddy is the spirit. It's showing us the spring locking of Cassidy, and that's not all it is. When William completes 50-20 mode, he is greeted with the vision of the worst mistake of his life. And what's the best/worst part? Michael is showing this to him. Michael, who had done everything he said in life. And why? Because he killed Cassidy. In a way, he did, of course, but Cassidy didn't die from the bite. He died from what William did to him after.
And even if you don't believe that, which is valid one way or the other, even if you don't believe that eventually William put Crying Child Cassidy into the suit, Crying Child Cassidy already has a connection to the suit, and William's negligence also played a very big part in what did that.
William was the one who killed Cassidy and then gaslit Michael into wallowing in guilt for his entire life. And in finding out his father was the one who killed Cassidy, Michael was able to realize that his father was behind everything else.
All this to say, this doesn't mean that Michael is going to stay in hell forever. That's a pretty downer ending for our protagonist. We have to remember that Old Man Consequences is there too.
Yeah.
He tells Michael to leave and rest. He has the possibility to do so. He can do so. And one day he may. And with Golden Freddy telling him over and over that it's me, reaching out to him again and again, I think his little brother may be the one to bring him to peace.
Aww.
To ease his soul and put
that would
him
be
to
sweet.
rest.
And narratively, doesn't it feel complete to have the same protagonist in the first and last of the game of the original timeline? Speaking again of narrative significance, what is the point of Michael? What's the payoff for I'm going to come find you if he just lets William go at the end via Henry's hand? Why introduce him, imply he's the main character of most of the games, and then just kill him immediately? The reason is that Michael is the through line of all of these games. We start these games as Michael, we end it as Michael. Just as all of this started with Michael and William's sins against Cassidy, and ended with their hell for each other.
As for the other spirits, William is, as deserved, suffering eternally for his crimes against humanity. I really want to draw attention, though, to the Sisyphean imagery of Ultimate Custom Night here. The original Tale of Sisyphus has him drawing the ire of the gods for killing his guests, but then evading death by locking it in a chest. Even after death escapes the chest, Sisyphus manages to escape once more. But he can't run forever, and when he finally falls to the underworld, he is punished by doing the same task over and over. Sisyphus really be playing 50-20 mode every night, huh?
One must imagine Sisyphus as a yellow rabbit.
And for the children, I mentioned FNAF World earlier, and that really does seem to be the key to freeing the other kids. When Charlotte says, "You need to stay out of my way," it's because she's working on something she can't have angry spirits messing with.
Yeah.
What she's working on is freeing the kids. And specifically, Cassidy's spirit. The secret minigames you are meant to complete in FNAF World are very clearly setting up the minigames of FNAF 3.
Right, I think that's
true. The
true.
minigames which unlock the happiest day, in which Golden Freddy's spirit gets to have a birthday party. These minigames may or may not be diegetic, but they show how Charlie prepared to set Cassidy free. She collected the other children's
Diegetic
souls,
means in the
shepherding
world,
them back
for
after
anybody
the
who
fire
doesn't know.
freed them from Ennard but kept them lost.
That's a
Then
big
they
vocabulary
all,
word.
together, worked to finally free Cassidy. In We Solved
Matt
the
Pat
Ghosts
would be
of
like,
Freddy's,
"That's
Rytos
good
brings up
vocabulary
that
word."
The end of FNAF World involves the player going into the middle of the woods, and then the game suddenly ending. Their interpretation is that it's not just any spot in the woods. It's the crying child's unmarked grave. All of FNAF World was finally finding Cassidy's body and allowing him to rest. They find his body.
Yeah, I fully
they
agree
open
with
the
that
chest,
interpretation
and
of
give him a
FNAF
party.
World.
The party was for you.
The player in FNAF World is probably Cassidy, being shepherded by the images of Fredbear and promises of being put back together. And it works. Though it didn't happen during the FNAF 3 fire, the happiest day either did or will happen. Charlotte brought all the kids together for a final celebration.
Hey, are
to give
they
Cassidy
making the connection? If you've been paying very close to the video, you know exactly what I'm talking about with this exact moment right here. But you have to have been paying very close attention to the video. That's all I'm going to say. You have to search for what I'm talking about. That's all I'll say. But I think they might be making a connection. I think they might be making the connection that I'm making. I don't know. I can be wrong. I've been wrong. I know about being wrong.
didn't happen during the FNAF 3 fire, the happiest day either did or will happen. Charlotte brought all the kids together for a final celebration. To give Cassidy the birthday he was denied, and then the balloons drift into the wind, and the spirits move on. All of the kids are safe. So Charlie is safe now too, and with her father.
Aww.
The only one left to move on is Michael. And that's where we leave the pre-Steel Wool story, with the question of whether he will give up his useless pursuit of revenge or fall deeper into the rabbit hole. It ends with a hand extended to Michael, and the question of whether or not he will take it.
But that's not where FNAF's story ends, oh no!
We got more games to merchandise, y'all!
Help Wanted is about to drop and some wild shit's gonna go down.
But that'll be for another video.
Okay,
or
fair enough.
videos.
Okay, there's one more thing
With
in
a
the
lot more
epilogue, so
wild
we'll keep
speculation.
watching. Okay.
Just one more thing before we finish this essay.
Okay.
And that is...
One more thing about Cassidy.
The fanon version of Cassidy is, well, very
if
popular
they
within the fandom.
say what I think they're gonna say, I'm just gonna listen.
And why wouldn't she be? We all love vengeful, angry little girls. But honestly,
That's true.
I don't think that's the reason she took off to the point we all forgot she wasn't canon. That was mainly from, pardon the pun, the joy of creation. Fan and Cassidy was a group effort, a fandom baby made from their love of the story being told to them. The love of the tragedy of it all, and of the parts of the story left untold for us to discover on our own. Cassidy, the vengeful Fredbear ghost, is a collective character, and while, as we well established, we don't believe she's canon, we do believe she's special. And
I
think
would
Scott
agree with
Cawthon
that.
and Steel Wool agreed that she's, well, pretty friggin' cool.
Yeah.
Obviously, we can't say for sure. We don't live in their vents.
Though we would if they let us.
But let's look at some of the elements
like
of
somebody
the
who
fanon's
lives in a
Cassidy
vent
and
might
see,
say.
well, if it describes a certain someone who has been introduced within the glitch trap era.
Cassidy is a little girl with dark
Are
pigtails.
they
She's a bit
gonna
hot-headed,
say it?
a bit
Oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. Sorry.
socially inept, but she has a heart and a drive for justice above all else.
Yes.
And now she has been wronged, and several other people have been wronged by the same entity.
Mhm.
She won't let that stand.
Mhm.
She's going to do whatever it takes to make sure justice is served.
'Cause,
And if not justice,
I mean, they
then
have the same
vengeance.
name.
What do you like to do for fun?
Vengeance.
Getting a little dark.
Also, she is very close friends with a little brunette boy in a
Yeah.
striped shirt, scattered band-aids, and a long-standing, suspicious connection to a golden-colored Freddy Fazbear.
Weird.
That's right. Cassidy the Vengeful Spirit may not be canon.
But they're...
But you know who is?
That was too close. I was almost a Cassie sandwich.
They said it.
You literally were almost a Cassie sandwich, buddy. What the?
Cassie is going to be canon Cassidy. She's got the hair, including the little ball hair ties that are popular throughout fan art. She's got the golden duo dynamic, though it's a bit reversed, with Gregory being the one to first comfort her and being a more scrappy, go-getter action
Fair enough,
kid.
fair enough.
But she's still a loner. She's still got a deep empathy for those other people might not. She sees the animatronic suffering and feels bad for them. She wants to help them, and she wants justice. But, well, whether her vengeance quest will be directed at the program that caused all this destruction or at the boy she thinks pushed her down the elevator shaft remains to be seen.
Fair enough.
And here's another thing. I think her name actually is Cassidy, not just Cassandra or some other variant. Most of our theories about her role in the story will be for another essay, but here's something important to note. Her father is most likely the player character of Help Wanted 2. That's not a special opinion. Most of the fandom agrees on that by
It's
now.
really hard to argue
Another thing we're
against,
really
honestly.
agreeing on is that this player, her father, is connected to a certain Bonnie mask. When her father sees an old one, he remarks that it looks familiar. When Cassie finds one, she asks, "What happened to you?"
Right.
The mask reminds her of her missing dad. The mask is very important
and
in
they
connection
say
to
that
her father.
he loves
you know
Bonnie
who else
the
had a
most.
Bonnie mask? An additional question, who else has a nearly identical color scheme? When asked what makes you so special in Help Wanted 2, the player is prompted to think about what
Oh, okay. Well, you guys by now have seen my What Makes You So Special video, so it seems like they're gonna give their 2 cents about it too.
makes Cassie's dad so special. What makes him so special among the other Phas technicians is that he was there. He was there
okay.
when
That's the
original
interpretation I've
Cassidy
seen other
died.
people say.
He helped shove him into an animatronic mouth. He helped start this whole thing. Now he passes the rabbit mask of trauma onto his daughter Cassidy, whom he named after the original Cassidy
Generational.
Afton,
It's
letting her fall into
generational.
the hands of a creature that just loves to make the past repeat. There may not be 2 Golden Freddy spirits, but there are 2 Cassidys.
Maybe just keep her away from Prototype Freddy's stomach teeth for now.
Interesting. I do like that. Okay, we'll let the credits play. But that was very, very good. I think I still am only struggling with the vengeful spirit being Michael in the sense that it's like a kid voice and stuff, so it would have to be like that after Michael dies he reverts back to the kid-like state. That's just hard for that's a hard sell for me because we don't have precedent for that happening anywhere else that I know of. Correct me in the comments if there is an example of someone dying and their spirit being younger than they were in life when they died. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. I'd love that information. That's really the biggest thing that's getting me. It's just that the voice is very childlike. Oh, stop. In Mathmorium, beloved husband to Springtrap. Shut up. And father also to Springtrap. Beloved husband to Springtrap and also father to Springtrap. That's so funny. Oh my goodness.
Okay, someone put their persona pointing a gun at me and said, "Show us what's inside the fridge, Wayne." You want the truth? You want the truth? You want the f***ing truth? Oh, there is no fridge!
There is no fridge. There is no fridge.
It was never real.
Oh, that's good stuff. Okay. So, wow. It's time to wrap. I did unfortunately know about the reveal. I feel like that cheapened that moment for me. But, you know, I guess it's my fault for reading the comments, but I'm like, I have to read the comments on my videos because I want to talk to you guys, and I read the wrong comment. Should have been hidden for review. I never checked those. Okay, it's final thought time with Nervous. And I will say that I really love the concept of Michael being the vengeful spirit. I'm not sure if it's something that I've thought of before, like just even in passing, you know what I mean? Because he is like the adult, the older character. I do really like the Golden Freddy imagery at the end of Ultimate Custom Night being about what William did, not necessarily that the vengeful spirit is inside of Golden Freddy. There's just still a little part of me that's not completely convinced, unfortunately, because I would like to be completely convinced. I am very open-minded about this kind of stuff. There's just a couple of things that, as I have just watched the video, I still need to ponder on for some time. It's narratively sound that Michael would, you know, be this through line and have a full circle moment. I like that. I like the way that that feels. But just because I like the way that it feels doesn't necessarily make it right. Was this a convincing essay? Yes. Like, at the end of the day, this is a very convincing essay. I think if you move forward with this as your truth, that it will be really exciting to see what we find about the new games. Not just, YouTubers, but other theorists who, post on Reddit or things like that. Seeing this theory, allowing these sort of ideas to help them move forward or help them form thoughts about the newer Steelwool games. I hope that they continue to post. They seem like they are planning to continue to post. That's what it seems like. Go to their channel and check it out. Make sure that you have all bell notifications turned on, not just personalized, because that could be the reason that you're not getting all of their notifications about their uploads. That being said, thank you so much for watching, and please subscribe and turn on my bell notifications so you can become a part of the Nervous system. Like the video, comment, I'd love to hear your thoughts. If you'd like to financially support the channel, I have $1 channel memberships. It's just a nice way for you to get some behind the scenes posts and pictures about upcoming projects I'm working on. Sometimes I ask you guys for advice on what I should be doing, and I shout you out in my videos every week. So feel free to do that if you'd like to. I stream regularly and I upload every Friday, but if you can't wait, there are videos on the screen right now just for you. Okay, bye! But it was interesting because it's like the last